Perfect. So this is career development in a COVID world, how to support students and employees at scale. Our speaker today is going to be Catherine Naughton, and she's going to go ahead and take the presentation from here.
All right, thank you very much for the introduction. Hi, I am Catherine Naughton. I work for Austin Community College as the internship coordinator. So if you have any questions after this presentation and you would like to reach out to me directly, I would be happy to chat or schedule an appointment. So I work for the Office of Experiential Learning. And if you're not familiar with experiential learning, we just simply call it learning by doing. So we are divided into two different pieces, internships and service learning. So I run the internship side of the program. So we say learning by doing, hands-on, getting out there either via volunteer work through service learning, internship, study abroad, or work study would be some examples of what experiential learning is. We are considered faculty support, and we are under the Teaching, Learning, and Excellence Division at Austin Community College. Our two main areas of focus, like I said, are service learning and internship, and they are all geared towards class credit. So here's a little breakdown of how our office supports faculty. So as I stated, we are faculty support. We actually do not work with students directly. We support faculty to give them the tools that they need so that they can run these programs successfully in their classrooms. So we have dictated the internship process college-wide. So we have the policies, procedures, compliance-related information, all of that is maintained and regulated through our office. We recruit employers to hire ACC interns. So we are the primary recruitment source for internships. The same would go for service learning, but we're focusing on internships today. We also assist with an emergency student placement. This is the only time that we would get involved working with students one-on-one, and this is when they have exhausted all of their resources in terms of trying to apply for an internship. They've done their due diligence, they've got a solid cover letter resume, but they're just running into some issues. We have an online form that they complete, and then we work with them one-on-one to help get them placed in an internship. We also maintain the internship active list. Salesforce is where we maintain all of the internship opportunities that we've recruited. We can track and see based on our launch date in fall of 2019, which is when the system began. We can look and see from that very beginning, day one, of what internships have been posted to current day. So right now I'm recruiting for fall, so I can go in and look at whatever my active internship lists are for the college and sort them by area of study, et cetera, and send those to the appropriate faculty. And then lastly, we are the maintenance of documentation and reporting. So we have some required documentation for compliance and regulatory policies with the college that we are required to maintain. And so we want to make sure that we are communicating that effectively to all the faculty so they know what's expected of them and what we have to have in order for them to be in compliance with our office. So those are the 5 main pieces of how we support our faculty at ACC. So to dive into Salesforce specifically, like I said, we launched this program in fall, or launched this system in fall of 2019. We spent probably 90 days developing it, but it was probably a year that we spent investigating and developing our wish list for what we wanted the system to do. And one of the primary functions of our Salesforce CRM is to house and maintain all of our internship requests and postings for the college. We currently support approximately 35 program areas that utilize our services or offer a 4-credit internship practicum or co-op class. And we were maintaining and tracking all of this through Excel spreadsheets, which is not very effective. And we had a lot of user errors, and it was just becoming too much for us to manage. So Salesforce came in and helped us to cleanly track and maintain all of these opportunities. So what makes up our CRM? Well, I'm just going to clarify that I am not on the development team, but I work very, very closely with our product owner and our developer. We have meetings probably twice a month to talk about new implementations that are coming into the system and where we're heading. So we were very much involved, or I was very much involved in the process of building the system. So what I can tell you is that the biggest partner with Salesforce was the use and the integration of form assembly. The majority of how we collect our data with Salesforce is through forms, which are powered through form assembly. We have a request and intern form, which we'll talk about in more detail as we go on. And that collects information. And then once it's collecting all of the questions that we've asked and data, it deposits all of that into Salesforce. We also use apps, screen flows, and process builder. By fall of 2020, we are launching our OEL communities page, which is really, really big for us. The way we've been doing it now is we've been sending out a link to all the separate forms to our faculty. And this has been kind of confusing because as we've had new updates and integrations with our system, it changes the link, which can be confusing and frustrating for our faculty when they want to rely on just one-stop shop to gather that information. So this fall, we are going to have a web page that's powered by the communities page, and it's going to be a never-changing website where they can go in and access all the forms they're going to need, and even we'll have a resource section. So if there's any other tools or resources for the student to access, or the faculty or the employers to access, it will all be housed in this nice, neat page. So we're excited for that. We are also looking into utilizing Einstein to incorporate predictions and trends based on the data that we're collecting. So for me, it will be really neat to, especially with everything going with COVID right now, to say, well, in spring of 2022, where do we think that we're going to go? And so Einstein will hopefully, for us, be able to look at all the past data trends from fall of 2019 and give us a projected number for some of the areas that we're going to be looking at. So that will be something that probably won't launch until possibly fall of 2021, but because we're still kind of figuring out how we can integrate it, but we're excited. To date, we've had over 700 corporate partners integrated within our system. We started with almost 200 in fall of 2019, and it's just grown. And we attribute a lot of that growth to the ease of being able to track this information. And we'll talk a little bit about how we capture that employer information. Obviously, I can manually, on the administrator side, type in any of the employers that I would like to enter. But when an employer requests an intern through one of our forms, we can collect information that way. Oops. All right. So let's talk about our internship requests and posting. So when an employer clicks on our request an intern form, this is just a snapshot of what that form assembly page would look like. And so they can post the job title, job description, they can upload a job description if they have it. They can select a program, which is going to be an area of study or a specialization, the semester, number of positions, application deadline, and whether it's paid or unpaid. This is a huge piece of how we track our employer contact information and our internship opportunities. This is one of 3 very important features of the system, is to maintain all of the internship opportunities for the college. So this is a snapshot of what that looks like. Some of the features for this is employer data and contact tracker. So like I said, there's 3 different ways that we can maintain all of our employer postings and employer information. The first is through that request and intern form, this form right here. The second is by manually entering it. So sometimes I'll get an email and they're not really sure if they want to request an intern yet. They're on the fence, but I ask them if they want to be put on our solicitation list, and they say yes. So then I go in and I manually put that into the system. And then lastly, our internship agreement, which we'll talk a little bit further on within this presentation, is a required document that all of our students, faculty, and employers are supposed to sign. So let's say, for instance, that it's a new employer that's outside of our office that we did not recruit, that the student did completely on their own, independent of us. They would fill it out and it would capture that information so that for any future solicitations we send out, it's captured. We call that a reverse referral, which is really, really nice. So those are the 3 ways that we get and track that employer data. It allows employers to also change their participation status. So another really cool feature of our system is that we have this mass email capability. So we run on a 90, 60, 30-day process. So before a semester starts, 90 days before the upcoming semester, I send in a mass email to all 700 plus of our employer partners, and I have just a template that's general that says, hey, it's that time again. If you're looking to request an intern, here are some of your options. And they can go through and click on the link if they want to add it. But they also allow for them to clone or repost positions if they posted with us in the past. If they don't want to work with us for whatever reason, or due to COVID, for instance, we've had a lot of employers in certain areas of study like culinary and accounting that just are not hiring or on the lookout for interns right now. They can do a temporary selection of inactivation. And what that means is that they can just temporarily opt out of correspondence for a semester. And once they have done that for the semester, it will automatically, the following semester, reactivate them. They can make that temporary or permanent. Obviously, we never want to have an employer leave us permanently, but it happens. It's just how things go sometimes. But they do have control over whether or not they want to receive further correspondence from us. And they receive all those prompts and those 90, 60, and 30-day emails. So they get that request an intern form, or they can repost or clone their positions. And then once the positions are posted, I can go in on the backside and go to my master report feature. I love reports. I love the customization and how easy it is for me to develop it. I use a master internship report to filter and sort all of these postings. And I can select IT, for instance, and export an Excel spreadsheet and send that to the faculty member and say, here are your opportunities so far that have been recruited for fall of 2020. And we update that every Friday. I can also sort them by semester, year, area of study, paid or unpaid. This is really helpful because let's say, also due to COVID, we've had way fewer employers request interns for summer and for fall. And it's hard for me to remember which all employers we've worked with because we have so many now that it's really helpful for me to go in and filter by semester or year so I can compare with previous semesters and then specifically target those employers to send them maybe a private email that says, hey, saw that you requested or sponsored a student last semester. Would you like to do that again? And sometimes that's enough for them to say, oh yeah, sorry, I got your email before, but I just lost track. Yeah, go ahead. Can you repost those positions for us? Or can I get the form so I can post that again? So the other important feature, aside from the requesting and maintaining all of our internship postings, is the actual internship agreement, which is how we collect all of our demographic information surrounding internships. It's also our compliance and regulatory info. We want to make sure that wherever our students are placed, that they are taken care of, that they're safe, that employers are following whatever federal labor laws are outlined. And we also want the students to understand that it's their responsibility to be good employees for that company, and that their contract with that employer can be terminated at any time pending their performance. So we have this internship agreement. And I just took a couple snapshots because it's kind of a lengthy form. Like I said, this is again a form that we developed in partnership with Form Assembly. So the student will go in and put in their information. There's actually a login in area, which our system is now communicating with the ACC Okta system, which is where it's like connected to all of ACC. So like Blackboard, WebAdvisor, anything that a student would need to use their official student login, it's tied to that. And so as of this summer, we finally have it up and communicating with that. So that means that students can log in using their official ID, which is way less confusing because before we were having them use a custom login and password that they were creating, and then they'd forget it. They'd put multiple agreements in the system and it was a mess. So now it's communicating with all of our other systems within ACC. So it's been a lifesaver and a much easier process. So once they're logged in and recognized within the ACC Okta system, then they can start filling out their demographics for their internship placement. We have a Lookup employer account feature, which is like our Google search feature. So if an employer is listed within our 700 employer partners, they should just be able to search it, and have it pop up. If for some reason it's not included because it's an employer that they are bringing in from outside of the organization, there's an option to can't find account, enter that employer information now, and that's how we get that reverse referral. So that's how I'm able to track new employers that are outside of our office that students are bringing in, so that way we can solicit them and target them for future recruitment. Another piece of it is that they can select their internship course. So our system communicates with Salesforce using that Okta or what we call, I'm blanking on what it's called, but it's our registration. So it communicates also with our registration office. So we make sure that we double check before each semester that all the courses that are being offered for that semester are correct and up to date and are listed correctly in Salesforce. So once that is done, they can go ahead and select whatever their course number is, and it will automatically populate their instructor name, which is a big help. Because when we were first launching this, we were letting them put in their instructor information, and a lot of students don't always know who their instructor is, so having it auto-populate is great. It also will auto-populate the semester dates, the beginning to end, to eliminate confusion for students as well. This is where they can talk about the number of hours they work per week and whether or not it's paid or unpaid. So all of these areas are little demographics that we can capture. So if I want to do a report on the number of paid versus unpaid internships for a specific semester or semesters, I can go back in on a report side within Salesforce to figure out what we look like for that time period. They also read over their terms and conditions. These have changed because of COVID. I don't have the updated terms and conditions to reflect COVID, but something that was really helpful for us was we needed to reflect public policy with everything that's happening with COVID, especially now that we are branching into the world of remote and digital internships, something that we had never done before, but are excited to utilize more of as we move forward. And so we got to go back through the agreement and change that to reflect just the current state of our economy and what we're doing at ACC. So these are just some of the policies that the students go and agree to. Once they select agree, they do an e-signature. And once they've done this and they've selected and signed their response, an automated email gets sent to the instructor in our office, prompting the instructor to go in and review all of the information the student entered. And if everything the student entered is correct, the instructor just reviews, clicks yes, makes any notes if they need to, and then they hit submit. If the student has entered anything that is incorrect, they have the authority to hit decline and there will be a drop-down menu of all of the different things that could have gone wrong. Maybe they put the wrong number of hours, or they selected the wrong class, which has happened a couple of times. And then it bounces back to the student. So the student is prompted to go through and make that change. Usually, everything goes through pretty smoothly. And so once the internship instructor has approved and submitted, the final person in that chain is the employer. So it's a step 1, 2, 3. Student is 1, faculty is 2, employer is 3. The employer is the last person in the party to receive that email. They also have the authority to decline an agreement if they notice that there's anything wrong, and it will bounce it back to the student to go back and review to make those appropriate changes. We haven't had a lot of issues with them being declined, and if there were issues, it usually related to the terms and the agreements, of course. And so we've had a lot of folks from the legal community be like, maybe you should change the wording and things for that. So that's been really helpful. But for the most part, it's pretty smooth. So I had mentioned earlier that we have the internship agreement in place, and it is mandatory for any student enrolled in a 4-credit internship, practicum, or co-op course. It is required by Austin Community College administrative rules and the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board. This is how we keep track. It's also part and tied to our insurance agreement. So all of our students are covered by accident insurance. So let's say, for instance, that a student had an accident on site of their internship placement. We would probably be audited to provide the internship agreement. So that way we can make sure that we were in compliance. Yes, they were registered for this course. Yes, they completed this agreement. And so if anything were to go wrong, we're not held liable for any of that because we have an agreement in place to protect that student, and the employer is not held liable for that because there's an agreement in place. It's automated, which is great, and I can set or schedule reminders. What I mean by automation is every 30 days, let's say, for instance, the student does a really great job, they put in all of their information, and it's sitting in the faculty's inbox. And it's sitting, or maybe it got sent to spam for some reason. The system will automatically, every 30 days, resend that email to the instructor. Now, usually I don't have to rely on that 30-day because I'm checking it daily and weekly. And if I see it stuck in the faculty, I will prompt that faculty member immediately by resending that email and usually forwarding it to them saying, hey, you have something in your inbox, please complete it as soon as possible. But that's just because I like to have everything done in a very timely manner. But if I wanted to, I could schedule it to be on a weekly basis, but right now it's just 30 days and that's fine. It allows for us to pull available course lists and enrollment reports each semester. This is a new feature. It was one of my wish list items. What we've had to do in the past is go down the list of 40 to 50 classes and actually export the data into an Excel spreadsheet with the list of students that are enrolled. And then we confirm that or cross-reference that with the faculty. And what ends up happening is students can begin registering for a class like 60 days before a semester begins. And students will add and drop all of the time. So we're going off of that list for the numbers and for like seeing who's enrolled and who's not. And a lot of times it's not accurate. It's not accurate because we have to go in and manually check it daily for it to be accurate. So one of our wish lists for the system was that it would communicate with the enrollment office live. So that means every 15 minutes, it is going through and updating and it's putting it into a report through Salesforce. So now every day or every 10 minutes, I could log in and check my enrollment report for specific areas of study or the college as a whole for experiential learning. And I could see who's been added and who's been dropped to see what changes have been made. It's been super easy, and it's been a huge time saver because all I have to do is hit a filter and go to just whatever area of study I'm focusing on and get that report out and sent to faculty and say, here's what we have for your list of students enrolled. Is this correct? Great. It also communicates with the internship agreement. So that way I can go through and pull up the students enrolled, and there will be like 3 check boxes, and it will say student complete, check. Employer complete, check. Faculty complete, check. Or if there's not a checkbox there, then we know that when I'm sending these reports to my faculty each week, they can look and see which students have done their due diligence and which haven't. This is very helpful for faculty because they're very busy. And so just being able to have like a quick spreadsheet so they can look over all of their students enrolled and be able to see where they're at in the agreement process. And so they can prompt them and make sure that students are getting done what they need to get done. Completion of internship agreement by an outside employer. We talked about this earlier, our reverse referral. So this is a great way to track new employers that are coming into the system that we want to keep and solicit for future semesters, which is awesome. And then it's also really helpful for us when maintaining demographics. One of my big initiatives for our office is to be a data hub for internship stats for the country. There are not a lot of schools that I have read or am familiar with that mandate some kind of a tracking process of students that are enrolled or participating in 4-credit internships. So because we have this great agreement and because it's communicating with our enrollment office, we can get all kinds of demographic information on students, such as their gender, their age, ethnicity, race, and area of study. And that's going to help us as we move forward with some of our equity initiatives to make sure that we are doing everything we can to best support students in internships. And if there's any gaps in our data, anywhere where we need to make improvements, we have the research we can fall back on to develop better solutions as we move along. So my personal favorite is the data collection repository. I love data. I think it's so fascinating to see what we're doing as a college and how we compare with other schools that have published reports and literature reviews with organizations such as NACE, the National Association for Colleges and Employers, because I think that's just kind of how you figure out where you sit with the whole. So the internship agreement is our biggest piece that allows for us to create a student profile for each semester based on demographics. Most of the pre-existing data surrounding internships is collected electively and may only survey a small percentage of students. What I mean with pre-existing data is for my grad school, I spent my last year in grad school, I focused primarily on only internship related research and data. So I published a literature review for grad school and was pulling all of this data and information. And while there is some stats about internships from other colleges and university, most of it's elective and it's surveyed information. So they might have asked 900 students some information about internships, but they only get back like 150 responses. And we have the ability, because it's mandated for our college, that it's required. The student has to complete that internship agreement to get course credit. And it's also a compliance issue. So the faculty member, if they don't do their due diligence, could be held accountable for that. So it's really, really great that we're able to collect this information and know what it is across the board, because we're not going to have those gaps because it is mandated. We hope by the end of 2021 to publish our own literature review for NACE, where we can say, hey, this is what we've collected, and kind of put a question or a call out to all of the other universities and colleges out there to say, what do you have? Publish your data too. We want to know how we're doing. So that way we're not just looking at one school, but eventually we're going to be looking collectively across the United States about how we're handling internships for everyone, everywhere. So we talked about the equity policy. There's definitely a lot of interest in paid versus unpaid internships. For any of you that work in experiential learning or assist with any kind of internship, there's a lot of debate about the paid versus unpaid internship and participation rates, and just the different theories about how it's affected based on area of study, gender, and race. Most research right now, they hypothesize that the demographics that are listed above, such as area of study, gender, and race, can be associated with a prevalence in paid or unpaid internships, which may be resulting in equity gaps. That's a big mission for us right now, and we're hoping to address it through the data we're collecting, and like I said, try to find solutions so we can make internships as accessible as possible to all of our students, regardless of any of the demographics that are being collected. So here is just a snapshot of some of the data that we have collected so far. So things have changed a lot since COVID. I am going to go ahead and put that out there right now. Some things that I've been really grateful for with the system is just being able to mass communicate with all of our employers during this time and say, hey, things are bad right now, and we understand that you might not be able to take a student for an intern, but we just want to let you know that we're here to work with you. We're going to be as flexible as possible. If that means a digital or remote internship, we're here for you. And that has opened up a lot of creative conversations about how we can support each other better, and to also make sure that we are making sure our students are safe by changing the terms and conditions in the internship agreement, and that ACC is covered as well if we're going to be sending students out into the workforce. So from fall 2019 to spring of 2020, we saw that 64% of our students received paid internships, which we were pretty pleased with that, hoping that that will continue to go up. We were able to dissect and kind of dwindle down like which area of studies had the highest pay versus highest rate of unpaid internships. And we found that manufacturing and applied technology had the highest percentage of paid internships at 85%. This is not shocking to me. A lot of the research that has been published so far has said that, STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math tend to more frequently have those higher paid internship opportunities. And we found that this is very, very much what we're seeing on our end. And then also hypothesized and has been reported by other literature reviews and publication is that the lowest percentage of paid internships is usually in the arts, which for us is the arts, digital media, and communications. We had 30% paid. So it was interesting to see that we are along the same lines of what's being reported that's out there right now. For summer of 2020, only 20% of our students accepted paid internships. That is a huge decline. But we understand that we're in a really tough spot right now, and the economy took a downturn, and we're doing everything we can to support students. So that might require maybe the college right now. We're looking at taking on maybe more interns to work for the college, utilizing our work study funding, so that way students don't have to be forced to take an unpaid internship. And we're also looking at potential scholarship opportunities for these students as well while we're going through these really challenging times. The average wage for fall of 2019 to spring of 2020 is $18.14. That's really great. We consider anything that's above $15 an hour or higher to be fantastic. So to see that our average wage for students that are getting paid for their internships being well above that is good news for us. Demographics. So 66% of our students who participated in internships are considered non-traditional. this was really, really interesting to me because a lot of the research that we have conducted in last year said that the majority of students who participate in internships are traditional. And for those of you who are not familiar with non-traditional versus traditional students, non-traditional is just students the ages 25 and over are considered non-traditional, whereas anything 24 and below, for us, it's ages 16 to 24 is considered traditional. And I was really pleasantly surprised to see that more than half of the students that we're serving in 4-credit internships, practicums, and co-ops are mostly non-traditional. So that tells me that we're doing something right, that these are students that are employees first and students second, and they're seeing the value of internships. So now we got to look and see if this changes at all, if we filter the area of study, which you'll see that I have starred at the bottom, because maybe those trends are going to be different based on the specialization breakdowns for those areas. 30% of all of our students who participated in internships identified as Hispanic or Latino. We are considered a predominantly Hispanic or Latino minority school. So we want to make sure that we are making sure that internships are available and accessible to all of our students. Also going back to, I just noticed for my 66% of students in internships for the non-traditional, we have a student census report that we put out every semester that is a snapshot of all student enrollment data. And we had a 30% higher non-traditional enrollment in internships than what's actually enrolled in all of ACC. So I thought that was really cool. Like that just kind of warmed my heart because like I said, that's kind of unusual for us to have such a high number. 50% of our internship participants identify as female and 46% as male, which matched our student census report like to a T. So we're right on track with that data that we're collecting there. I think what's going to really change the game for us is we're working on adding a filter to include area of study. So that would be, let's say, a student is in the arts, digital media, and communications umbrella, that would be like photography, art studio, graphic design, those pieces. And we want to break it down even further to see if we're seeing any specific trends for those specializations, because that will give us an even more magnified view into where we need to make improvements overall. So I know that is a lot of information to take in, and I just kind of want to end, and I know I'm probably ending, I'm making sure that I'm doing okay. 10 minutes to the Q&A section. Okay, want to make sure that you guys have time for that. But just, thank you for your time and thank you for being a part of this presentation. It's a lot of information, and this system took a year of shopping and figuring out how we were going to make it work. And even once we had it launch, it's like every day I feel like there's something else I'm thinking about that we can add to the system to make it more effective. We feel very good about how we're tracking and maintaining info. It's been a big help during COVID to be able to send out a mass email to all of our employers and let them know what's going on. And it's also been really great just to see the changes and how our data has shifted and our trends have changed so much in just 2 semesters. So we hope that as we continue to move forward, that we're only going to, finesse this even more and hopefully have some publications out there and some research that we can put out and start comparing our notes with everybody else across the US and see how we can all work together better to make internships the best experience that they possibly can for our students and for our faculty. So I am going to stop there and answer questions. I don't know how many questions.
Hey, Catherine, this is Justin. Thank you so much for a fantastic presentation. Just one quick question for you, maybe why some people are typing in theirs, or we may just not have any, and they can email you directly. You shared that information at the beginning.
Yes.
But you talked a little bit about Einstein at the beginning and about predictive analytics. Can you talk about some of the other things that maybe are on your wish list of analytics that you'd like to be capturing right now and kind of taking action on? I know you were talking about just kind of looking at, fall semester to spring semester comparisons and things like that. But any kind of predictive analytics that you that are kind of on your wish list?
I would say my predictive analytics is I want to know what Einstein forecasts for paid versus unpaid. I want to see how it forecasts with different areas of study. So for instance, we had an increase from fall to spring for our IT. And so I kind of want to see how it changes as we grow or shift. It's like we were going in a direction where we were increasing and then COVID hit and now we're kind of taking 3 steps back. So I'm just really interested to see what the predictions are going to be for paid, unpaid, even some of the demographics. Like I said, I really want our specialization report to come out soon, because then I'm going to be able to look at every single specialization within those umbrella departments and look at gender, ethnicity, race, frequency of paid versus unpaid, average wage, at the very smallest possible area that we can, and kind of compare that to the college as a whole and say, not that this is true, but I'm just going to throw it out there. Let's say for Art Studio, that we have 80% women who are enrolled in Art Studio internships for fall semester, and 15% of them were paid, and the average wage was $11.50. And, all of those pieces, because I think that's going to produce a lot more results for us when we're trying to problem solve and go to apply for a grant or go present to our scholarship foundation and say, hey, students should have a choice of participating in internship. And I think it's our job as a college to make sure that we find ways to make sure that students are supported in paid internships when we have organizations out there that just can't do it. So how are we making sure that students are supported, they're paid, and that they have a choice on whether or not they can participate in an internship, and not have it be based upon whether or not it's paid or unpaid, that there's going to be an option or a choice for them, regardless, would be really, really amazing. So we're just now diving into some of those analytics for the first time within the last couple of weeks. I just finished my first demographic report, which took a year to get it ready to go. So in a year, I'm sure that we're just going to have all kinds of info, and then being able to show Einstein predictability and all the predictions will be awesome to show to our executive board and say, well, we're going in this direction and it's not looking good, or we're going in this direction and it's looking good. So we have reason to celebrate, or we have reason to go back to the drawing board and make some changes.